Okay, we're now going to look at interpreting Belfast Confetti. As I said in the structural part, the first stanza is a kind of memory that takes place in the past tense, and the predominant imagery here is of punctuation marks. So the speaker of the poem immediately puts us right in the middle of the action. Suddenly, as the riot squad moved in, it was raining exclamation marks. Now that's really unusual language, of course, because we all know an exclamation mark looks something like that. And it's something we see in language. In fact, we don't see these when we speak, and we certainly don't see them in our everyday. What does he mean that it was raining exclamation marks? Well, it was raining nuts, bolts, nails, car keys. And it was a fountain almost, of broken type. Like imagine a typewriter coming apart. I really like that image of a typewriter kind of vomiting and all these things coming out. And if you look at an exclamation mark, it looks, or the suggestion is, that it looks like something is falling from the air. It's like something is raining. And it could be nuts, but it could be all those things. And what you might not know is those things are sometimes implanted within a bomb. Now, the larger context of this poem is Belfast and the troubles, or the violence between Northern and Southern Ireland in the 80s in particular. But here, the poet isn't that interested in politics. But he's really interested in what it means, what the violence means here. So initially we get the shower, rain of exclamation marks. Then you get an explosion, itself an asterisk on the map. And you can see almost asterisk is like a little explosion. This hyphenated line, a burst of rapid fire. Hyphens, of course, if you watch or read comic books, that can look like a little... I remember a student showing me what they thought of this line, and that's a very bad gun, but if you imagine a gun, hyphens are the little things coming out of the gun there, and it was rapid fire. But that could also have something to do with this ellipsis that emerges here, this dot dot dot. That also kind of strangely looks like gunfire. The poet continues, or the speaker rather, I was trying to complete a sentence in my head, but it kept stuttering. Stuttering, meaning starting and stopping, couldn't finish. I wonder if that stuttering has something to do with that ellipsis, that with all these other punctuation marks happening, the hyphens look like gunfire, and stuttering is kind of that starting and stopping of your mind, not being able to finish a sentence. Even thought is interrupted. And all the alleyways are blocked. And are they blocked with cars or police or fighters? No, they're blocked with full stops and colons. So this whole memory is mediated through language. And that's, of course, a lot of our experience, and certainly with poetry, language, but not just language, actually, but punctuation. The punctuation, the way these marks look on the page is what reminds him, is his way of dealing with that violence. Now, this was near his home, and this young boy was probably very frightened of what was happening. And it seems to me this first stanza is a way of keeping all of this experience at an arm's length. And even though this is a poem in the first person, which is trying to give the reader an experience, I sense that there is a sense that there is a distancing going on here as well. And that punctuation, and remembering not blood, but full stops, not the sounds, but actually explosions looking like asterisks on a page, is one way of distancing himself from what's happened. The second stanza turns to the present tense. All of a sudden, we're back into the experience. I know this labyrinth so well. And you get this list of places in Belfast that sound very foreign, at least to my ear. Balaclava, Raglan, Inkerman, Odessa Street. And this labyrinth, this maze he's in, he can't leave. And he asks, why can't I escape? Why can't I get out of here? And here he uses punctuation in a very different way than what was used in the first stanza. Every move is punctuated. If you look up the dictionary definition, this is an interruption. So like his thoughts were interrupted before, now his every move is interrupted. And that word punctuation now takes on another meaning. Crimea Street, dead end again. Now, after a name of, for me, rather foreign names, but to him are quite intimate, things he knows so well, but to me are really strange, I get another list of things that for me, and I think for the speaker, are strange. A Saracen, a Kremlin 2 mesh, a Mac Roland face shields, walkie-talkies. It's like a list of things you'd buy in a shop in a video game. We get all of the material of war here. And it's supposed to, I think, make us feel disoriented. What are all these things? I know what a walkie-talkie is, but all these other things are really strange and foreign to me. And all of a sudden we get these series of questions. What is my name? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? And we get that repetition, a fusillade of question marks. We get the language of war meeting punctuation again. And a fusillade is a series of shots, in case you didn't know. Here, let me make sure that's on here. Series of shots. We'll bring that into the shot. Series of shots. And these shots are being directed at him, but they're actually shots that penetrate him, but they're just questions. What's your name? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? And someone has grabbed the boy and asked him all these questions, as you would in a war or in the street fighting in Belfast at this time. What's interesting about this ending isn't just that someone else might be asking this boy these questions. It's also questions he might be asking himself. So questioning from outside, but also questioning himself. And he can't escape, and he's confused, because in a way, being asked, who are you, what are you doing here, that's something a soldier might ask you about your location, but it's something very different when you ask yourself, what is my name, and where am I coming from, and where am I going? Can I ever escape the dead ends involved in this place? And strangely, this poem, in focusing on punctuation, has found a way of taking the experience of a memory and translating it into language, but really explicitly, almost the visual field of typography and punctuation, to suggest a whole other set of meanings. And I think this is a really interesting poem for that, and really unique in how it approaches memory, language, home, fear,